Jesus said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," or make you free. I'm Jerry Scheidbach, pastor at the Lighthouse in New Reno, Missouri. Hillary attacks the Donald, and Donnie slaps back. It's a mud fight, folks. Oh yeah, Hillary is all racist, and the Donald comes back with bigot, big fat liar. Well, I added the big fat liar part, but that's sort of a verbal caricature of the Donald's rhetorical style. You know what I mean? You've seen caricatures. A good artist will bring out, by exaggeration, certain features in the face. And anyway, Hillary's Reno speech was something of a gamble. Hillary's gamble at Reno apparently did not pay off for her, because I guess she was counting on the MSM's echo chamber to repeat her attack until it looked like she had Trump in the corner of the ring pummeling him while he stood there covering and cringing. But the problem is, if they do that, of course, they're going to have to go ask Donald what he has to say about it. And the problem is, he swings his way out of the corner. Instead of cowering in the corner, he's slipping her jabs and landing blows that are stunning her. For example, Ben Boychuk in the Sacramento Bee writes, quote, "In December, Clinton took a swipe at Trump's penchant for sexism. Around the same time, she announced that her husband, former President Bill Clinton, would be campaigning for her in New Hampshire. Trump slapped back hard. Quote, if Hillary thinks she can unleash her husband with his terrible record of women abuse while playing the women's card on me, she's wrong," end quote. Yeah, that's what Trump tweeted. Clinton had no answer for that, and she won't have an answer for it when it comes time for debates. And he concludes that Trump will crush Clinton in the debate. And who was that guy that wrote the article arguing, I thought brilliantly, that Trump will win because, like it or not, we are a TV culture. And at the bottom line, Trump is a whole lot better TV than Clinton is. And that perhaps explains why he does better in online polling than he does in the mainstream or the regular polling. But some of the major players in the polling industry have decided to focus on a group they call most likely to vote. And in this election, the theory is there is a large sleeper voting bloc that some describe as the undercover voter. Now, the idea is that polls have never been able to accurately account for the undercover voter. That's a phenomenon, by the way, that plays a role in every election. But in this election, the undercover voter, and by the way, the undercover voter is someone who lies to the pollster when they're talking to a human being, but is more free and willing to tell the truth about what they're going to do when they're on an online poll and they are anonymous. So today, the theory is that that group, the undercover voter, is a group large enough to actually make a difference in this election. And it might even be enough to overcome the 5 to 10 point voter fraud advantage that the Dems have rigged into the system. Oh, by the way, supporting the idea that there is a large wave of undercover populist, nationalist, and secretly mad at Obama and hate and fear Hillary more than Trump voter wave building out there in the sea of humanity called America is this, that online polling, as I mentioned earlier, consistently shows Trump polling better than Hillary. But does it? One problem. Hard data don't support the claim that Trump does better in online polls. Uh-oh. Now I've got it in my files. Studies from the Democratic Convention all the way through July of all the primary online polls don't support the idea that Trump polls better on online polls than he does in the interview polls. However, take heart, lately, today, in fact, here is one online poll that shows Trump ahead by less than 1 point. Yikes. Look, I've made it clear that I have zero respect for Hillary, and I consider her to be a total disaster as president. Really, her idea of political hardball makes Watergate look like a kindergarten version of political wiffle ball. And I don't trust Trump. I mean, he's already whiffling on his immigration stance. Or have you been paying attention? You ever hit a wiffle ball? Hard to know which way it's going to go. But I've also said that if it's between Hillary and Trump, I hope Trump wins. So this is not about me trying to crow over my warnings that Trump was the worst possible candidate to send up against Hillary. Mostly, if you remember, that's because no other GOP candidate running back then so totally canceled out or neutralized all of her negatives with a wagon load of his own negatives. And Trump is the only one of those candidates who actually make Hillary look almost presidential. But I don't need to add any more fuel to that fire. However, I just want you to know I'm as distressed by this as you might be. The whole point of this show is the truth, and I challenge what the right feeds me and look at it as closely as I do what the left feeds to me. Because I found there's a bunch of liars in both camps. There might be more of them on one side than the other, but deceiving and being deceived, it seems to be the name of the game right now. Everybody's just sort of coming up with whatever they can to support whatever it is they want to believe or want others to believe. What I fear, my friend, in terms of the truth about all this, is that the unseen wave that's going to decide this election won't be the so-called undercover voter, but undercover illegal voters. I'm afraid voter fraud is likely going to give the Dems this election. It gives them a 5 to 10 point advantage going in. Truthfully, a 1 point lead in the polls will likely be a 5 to 6 point loss in the election. I really think fraud is very likely going to play heavily in this election. But my hope and my prayer is that God will hear my prayer and regard my fast and bring the truth up out of the street where it seems to me most Americans have thrown it, that the voters will see the real Hillary and, by the way, will see the real Trump, too, for that matter, and that election fraud will fail, and that enough of the remnant will wake up and turn to God to actually make a difference in this election. And let me tell you something as I conclude. I'm telling you, folks, it's more about what you do with 2 Chronicles 7:14 than it is any polls you might be reading. This election is going to be determined more by what God's people will do in the prayer closet than by what they do in the voting booth. But Trump is a fighter, and he is certainly, it's true, better TV than Hillary. So the theory, if it comforts you, that Trump can beat Hillary survives with some measure of plausibility, even if in part it depends on flawed assumptions. And that's something for all of us to pray about.